This is the Daily Divide, a show where we pick a story from each day and give you my take. 7 days, 7 divides. Let's get into it. On Monday, the government is rolling out fresh spending headlines. $413 million for school upgrades and $20 million for emergency departments. But only a fraction is actually new money, with critics warning the health boost could mean cuts elsewhere, while the classroom cash is largely a reshuffle of existing projects. Ministers say it's about clarity and delivery. This is economic vandalism. This is economic cannibalism. This is the perfect example of what those two words mean. Because all this government is, when they announce new money, especially this year, is they go, money over here. Hey, new money. No, don't ignore that last project that we stole that exact same amount for this new thing, so we can look like we're doing something, and then post on Instagram that we're oh, well, look at the amount of schools that we're repairing. Look at all the schools on this map in New Zealand that we're actually giving maintenance, that we're funding maintenance to. The bare minimum of what you should actually be doing as a government and the Ministry of Education. We're doing it. Look at us. Thank us. We're so awesome. That's all it is. That's all I see it when I read that on Monday. And now again, it is just moving things around just to squeeze out any goodwill towards the election year. Because I'm not an idiot. There are projects, there are programs in government and in public service that just don't need the funding and are not worth the funding, and so it's obvious to audit and then move the funding to some place that is more needed. But this just seems really it does seem really disingenuous, but underhanded to me, at least. Look, obviously there are values to moving money around and actually spending money. I'm not someone that says, if you want something, you get $1 million, you get $1 million. There has to be some sanity into it, obviously. But this isn't it. This obviously isn't it. Education needs more funding. Obviously, the teachers are crying out for a pay rise, and they bloody need it. Not to mention the health system is just under duress, but we all know what the actual plan is for that. A privatization. Or at the very least, that's the same. That's the same for the education system. In my opinion, they're going to privatize it. They're making the curriculum as terrible as possible, and to make it more appealing for schools to switch into the charter system, where they get more funding. So, I don't know. On Tuesday, the government's rewriting the Holidays Act, promising a simpler, fairer system where leave is tied to hours worked. Businesses welcome the clarity, but unions warn it comes at a cost. Part-timers will see sick leave cut back, ACC recipients will stop accruing leave, and vulnerable workers could be hardest hit. Casuals and new parents stand to benefit, yet critics say the reforms risk stripping away hard-won rights in the name of efficiency. I think for the thing for me, it's like the mood of the boardroom. I don't really care. I don't really put the opinions of business and what a CEO says at the head of my decision making. I put the head of what the workers, people that are actually doing the hard yards and putting the grafting in, to getting the dividends that those business leaders receive. And they do say that this will impact part-timers and we'll see sick leave cut back. Sick leave will be cut in half to 10, which I think is incredible. So yeah, this just all this does is just reinforce the fact that this government is anti-worker. Shocker! A government with a coalition with ACT and National is anti-worker. Oh, well, I'll be. But this government, I just want to go on a ramble, this government is extra quirky anti-worker. Luxon won't go and see union leaders. Bill English and Key did that, from what I know. They did that, the last National government, before Luxon did. And Luxon won't because, he's a petty little bitch who didn't like it when the CTU campaigned against him. Oh, please. This whole... Not to move away from the main point and the main topic, but this whole thing on, well, you have to understand why he's not talking to them. No, you bloody don't. What? Because he's a little bitch. That's literally what he is. He didn't like it when he was told. And this whole sentiment around everywhere that people see him as a person. He doesn't like being told that he's wrong, or doesn't like, he can't take criticism that well. He shouldn't be in the bloody job. It's just, that's who he is. That's what you're supposed to do as a PM. On Wednesday, at the annual PPTA annual conference in Christchurch, the biggest headline wasn't from the stage, it was Education Minister Erica Standford's empty chair. Despite scheduling the keynote months ago, she pulled out at the last minute, citing industrial reasons. Teachers called it a cop-out, pointing at past ministers, Labour and National alike fronted up even during strikes. Meanwhile, Judith Collins was forced to walk back false claims about teachers' pay, and the government insists shortages don't exist while classrooms struggle. Where is the walkback from Simeon Brown saying that nurses and doctors, more specifically nurses' salaries, are higher than they actually are? Where is that? Oh, well, I'm glad that Collins has the humility to walk it back, if there is any. But it's an anti-worker. It's another example of the fact that this is not the same. Or for all the people that thought Luxon was going to be the second coming of John Key, he's not that. He's not that. For all John Key's flaws, at least he was a leader of some sort. You know, flawed and a bit moronic and a bit of an idiot nowadays. You know, but he was still a leader. He was willing to talk to people that disagreed severely with him, to a degree, obviously. And this government just isn't that. And it's one of the reasons why I'm still leaning on the fact that this government will still win. But I'm swaying, because obviously in my short history of looking at politics, in my head, I just can't conceptualize how this government can get to the second term. They have to really turn around, or Labour has to really screw it up. It's just a bit of a cough. And using the excuse of industrial tensions is a cop out. Obviously, it is the most significant cop out I think we have seen. But it's not even that. We are in an age, in a point in time where we have the most amount of industrial action probably in the 21st century. If I have to make a claim, the comment section down below if you disagree. But I'm pretty sure I'm well enough to make that claim that we are in a time with the most amount. And the reason why is because this government won't talk to workers because they hate you. They objectify, they resent the fact that they have to even think about you. The fact that they're willing to make WorkSafe an advisory council to business rather than working for workers to police business owners that are lax in their health and safety. It's the biggest one. I mean, this is a government like no other. And I mean that in the most derogatory way, in the most uncourteous way possible. I think this government will go down in history as the biggest flop in National Party history. In National Party, in the country's history. It is astonishing. I think we're witnessing history here, in my opinion. It's not fun, but we're witnessing it every day. On Thursday, the Auckland Council has signed off on a sweeping new intensification plan, voting 18-5 to back a proposal that can enable up to 2 million new homes across the city. The move replaces the old blanket zoning rules with a focus on high-rise development around rail stations and town centres, but not without bitter clashes. Critics slammed the plan as insane and developer-driven, while supporters say it's the only way to tackle housing costs and protect flood-prone suburbs. Now the battle shifts to public consultation, where the heritage groups and residents promise to fight for their say. You know, I think there are a lot of issues I have with the National Party, obviously. There are blanket issues that I will never vote for them, specifically for what they have done during COVID and then the way that they have completely shifted for their own benefit and lied for their own benefit. I'll never vote for them, and they'll never match my politics. But on this, I think there are elements in that party that have it doesn't come under the name in this country, but there are elements in that party that come under the abundant liberal the abundant liberalism banner. And I specify more specifically Chris Bishop in that banner. There probably are others, obviously, but in that leader cohort, it's Chris Bishop. We really need, and I have thought this for years because I'm so smart, that we really need to build up everywhere. There really needs to be more emphasis on public transportation, a pathway to free transportation, or at the very least, heavily subsidized transportation, and better zoning laws that allow for high-rise buildings, that allow for single-person dwellings, that allow for two, and so forth. There needs to be, and then the NIMBYs standing in the way, they need to be set aside. Obviously, look, what the last government was going to do, they were going to get rid of the RMA. There was a pathway towards this, but obviously National wanted, as I said, a stamp on their own and a bit more leeway towards business and foreign interest and foreign homeowners, foreign property owners. So they wanted to, they binned that, got rid of the changes that Labour wanted, that Labour brought in their own changes, and then accused Labour of being the ones not willing to be bipartisan on that. That's really fun. It's really fun. I love that. I love National. I love them. They're great. Great little scumbags. But I think the baseline idea is true that both parties, both sides of the aisle, I don't know about Te Pāti Māori. I'd like to think that they are on board with the idea of housing intensification. I don't know. But I think across the board, in the major parties, there is agreement there that there needs to be better zoning laws, obviously within reason. Look, I don't think that, I think one of the problems that people seem to run into is that I don't think, I'm not the type of, I'm not the type of person that is full head first into capitalism and all that, not to get grainy in policy specific. But I think people do need to realize that housing prices will probably rise. It's very difficult and sometimes political suicide. Not political suicide, rather economic suicide to lower housing prices. And I think people do need to realize that sometimes that just won't work. And sometimes increasing the housing supply doesn't always work. That's not the main specific problem. The solution to the problem, National. Wages need to rise, salaries need to rise to decrease housing, but also transportation needs to be cheaper. Ease of access to schools, well-being, life, everything, really. It all needs to improve for people to be able to pay for. Definitely not $500 a week rent, but certainly it won't go to $300. I mean, it might. In my small brain, I might not be conceptualizing it, but under the system, I don't think it will. And as such, I think higher wages and better costs and better living needs to supplement it. I do understand the sentiment of heritage groups, and you want to keep the character of it, but if it supplants the affordability of housing and livability in a city, you're shit out of luck. I don't care. I don't care if your view to an ocean is impeded if an apartment gets set up, built. I don't really care. Sorry. I mean, it is important. I love history, and not just World War II, Nazi Germany. I do like history. I'm a little bit of a history buff, and I do understand I do understand the support of keeping a character in a city. I mean, in Wellington, we've got great houses there, but if it supplants housing affordability and livability, suck an egg. And on Friday, former Minister Simon Bridges is warning New Zealand faces a slow-moving energy crisis as power bills climb, industry struggles, and a new poll shows 49% of Kiwis want gentailers broken up, while 62% back government underwriting new generation to bring prices down. Bridges says bold reform is needed to boost supply, cut costs, and stop the economy sliding backwards, but all eyes now on Energy Minister Simon Watt's promises significant but surgical action in the days ahead. The renationalisation. The moment when I first saw this article, I thought renationalise, buy back the shares. We can't get back that 10, 11 billion in dividends that were lost to shareholders, but we definitely can stop those dividends going. This is all well and good. I completely agree with every single, but the largest reform that you need is to just buy back government shares. We just buy back the shares, and to obviously at a rate supplemented with other measures, better infrastructure spending when it comes to better generation. But we need to buy back. That's literally the answer. That's all I have on this. We just need to renationalize our industry, and only then all the profits that come out of that are reinvested. Lower prices, better control, and less decaying of the wider infrastructure, more specifically our power infrastructure. It is absolutely insane to me that if New Zealand First put some stupid identity politic, transgender bathroom nonsense stuff ahead of this, what they're throwing around, a renationalisation of power companies, my worst fears will be true. That New Zealand First are just some old farts who don't actually care and just want to play into a cohort of voters that really get off on this. I mean, please prove me wrong when you announce in the next election, do this. If National gets in and then you force the National Party to renationalise, my respect will come to, not as much, because I think you've degraded. I think you should leave politics now, Winston. But this needs to happen. This really needs, and look, my attention's also on the Labour Party. They really need to look at this. Obviously, within reason, you can't just buy them back at all at once, but there needs to be a pathway, again, supplemented with other policy, keeping it sane, over 10 years, maybe over 5, having a plan there, having a long-term plan, along with having short-term measures to help people who are suffering in the short term. But just doing the short-term fixes or medium-term fixes now and just is not really. I mean, it might win you an election or two, but it's not going to fix this country. It's not going to fix or change the face and the character of this country for the better. And on Saturday, the government's refusal to recognise Palestine has ignited a political firestorm at home. Labour has branded the move as morally reprehensible and a stain on New Zealand's reputation, while the Green and Te Pāti Māori call it cowardly and dehumanising. Chris Phillipson and Winston Peters insist the recognition would only embolden Hamas and undermine peace talks. But opposition parties say the government has aligned itself with the US and Israel while turning its back on global allies like Australia and the UK. It's becoming less about foreign policy and more about whether New Zealand shows moral leadership or political cowardice. Look, I was going to make a video when this announcement happened. I chose not to because my angle is more on strategy and how not doing this, which they didn't. It is. I just want to sit down. I'm already sitting down. I don't really know what to say, right? Even after taking a day off, just to think about not even making a video, just kind of thinking about the strategy and the political nous behind this. I didn't think that they would do this. I genuinely thought that they were going to recognize Palestine. Look, and again, I didn't make a video on this for the very specific reason that I didn't want to. Everyone, there are already people out there that are able to articulate the moral reprehension that this brings, and the shame that this brings on our country. Right, Helen Clark, forgetting her name, the co-leader that isn't Chloe Swarbrick. My God, that is terrible. What's her name? Marama Davidson. I haven't eaten yet. I've not eaten yet. I really need to eat a sandwich. Marama Davidson, and literally every other commentator are able to articulate this better than I. So I held off because it is once and foremost, it is a moral reprehension. It is completely disgraceful that we are falling back so fucking far behind every other, including Australia, the America of the South Pacific, or the West Pacific, or whatever. You know, America's lapdog. They're recognizing Palestine when they've got a million bajillion bases on their territory. They can do it. They got a $300 billion deal, submarine deal with America, and they can do it. But little old us, we're usually the ones straying, and we had the power. No, it's them. I mean, they're doing it in a concerted effort with other countries. They're not, they're not straying. That was Spain that did that, and Ireland did that format before any other countries did that. So credit to them, obviously, but they still did it. It would have been very easy for Albanese to just go, look, maybe not say it out loud, but I would have expected this to happen to Australia. That's what I'm trying to say. I would have expected this to happen to Australia. It is insane. I can't put into words why they thought that this is a good idea. Look, and it sounds like that they made the idea, which they agreed on this a week before, 2 weeks before. So I was right on that. Everyone was right on that. It's just look. I'm going to move on to, because I'm not well at articulating empathy and stuff. I'm just not that type of person. There are other people that can do that better. I'm not really I am an empathetic person, but I can't articulate it quite as well as other people. So I'm going to leave that to other people, and you can watch videos like that with others. I'm BHN's doing stuff with that. They did a live stream yesterday, and it was pretty good. It was good. It was really good. It's not pretty good. It's really good. So I'm going to stay on the strategy here. Look, when I said, and full for me, right, if this was a Labour government, they would have recognized the Palestinian state from my criteria. And my criteria was, is this going to be, if you don't recognize Palestine on this, will this become an electoral black hole going into the next year? Yes, tick. Okay, we're doing it. That's it. That's literally it. And that was, and I guess they didn't think it would be. Look, I don't think it's going to be the first and foremost thing, because there's a lot of other things that are going to lose the election. This is not the main thing. And when I say nor should it be, I'm not downgrading the genocide at all, but I'm just saying that doctors not getting paid well enough in this country, and our failing health system, and our failing education system, and our failing long-term plan past 3, 6, 9 years shouldn't not take precedent, but it will be on people's minds more so because they're experiencing it. That's what I mean by it. And I don't doubt there could be elements in the National Party and New Zealand First to an extent that are Zionist. I don't think so. I don't think that the National Party has a cohort of Zionists as big like there is in the Australian Liberal Party, where they are completely tearing itself apart and going to governments other than their own to say that, look, we don't support this to America. We don't have that. I don't think it would have teared the National Party apart. Vice versa. I think there are more national MPs in that party that are sympathetic to the genocide and would stray, but I just don't think that this is what they would stray on. They wouldn't break their party apart on this. Should they? Probably. They really should. There's a lot of things they could have strayed on, and they didn't. So, yeah. What can you say? That's one of the flaws of list MPs, in my opinion. One of the minor flaws and giveaways. When I didn't watch the whole speech, I didn't really think I needed to. I got the whole gist of it when I read it and watched little small clips. And the idea was basically that Palestine didn't fulfill the requirements of statehood because of the illegal occupation of the West Bank and he didn't say this, but the genocide in Gaza. And you know what? When I first saw that, I was thinking, look, you know what? I'm willing to reckon with that. I'm willing to reason with that concept. I'm willing to say, right now, there is no state there. We're not willing to recognize a state. I am actually willing to, stay with me here, I'm willing to agree with that. Okay, fair. So why no sanctions? Why no sanctions? And why no calling out the Israeli government for completely destroying the any Palestinian pathway to statehood? Look, that whole argument falls apart, but that was the thesis of the whole speech, basically, effectively. I'm just going to say it is because I didn't watch the whole speech and I don't think it was worth it. I'm willing to benefit of the doubt. Okay, sanctions? Question mark? Sanctions? Advocate for sanctions in the UN? You know, kick the UN out of the Security Council. They might not be in the Security Council. I take that back. I don't think they're in the Security Council. If they are, kick them out, or bar them from any part to a non-kick. Get rid of their voting status. Do something to go along with this whole concept of there is no, because if you just say that there's no pathway, then what are we supposed? What? Okay. I mean, I don't believe you, because that's not the main reason, is it? The main reason is you're shit scared of the United States, and you're shit scared of David Seymour, or Luxon specifically. I don't, maybe Winston, but I think it's more specifically Luxon. You're shit scared of David Seymour and his party breaking coalition. I think that's the reason. I think David Seymour told the cabinet, if you do this, we won't be here. We're out. We're gone. And I think Luxon went, right, okay, well, then we're not recognising them. And we'll do this little weaselly way of saying, well, they're technically not a state, so sorry. And all embolden Hamas. That was the other one. Embolden Hamas. That was on the thing, which is obviously just complete trollop. I applaud this government for going to new lows, dragging this country's name in the mud. I applaud that. Absolutely phenomenal. Love it. You love it. You'd love to see it. And making me congratulate and support Australia. Oh, God. That's even more insidious. Scum of the earth. And you know what the funny thing is? It's not even going to work. I mean, I don't even think the main reason is because they're shit scared of the United States. I think they're shit scared of David Seymour breaking coalition. I think that's the main reason. Honestly, I think that's the only reason. I think he's just shit scared of act. Look, if there are reasons otherwise, I'm willing to listen to it. But at the moment, that's my opinion. I don't even think it's the US. I think that by extension, it is the US because David Seymour is beholden to foreign interests, Atlas Group, and the United States foreign corporations and all that stuff. That's so. By extension, yes, that is true. But I don't think that's the main reason. But it's very funny to me that if that is the case, that shit scared of, of the deal with the Seahawks being their overpriced deal getting destroyed when Australia has a deal with the United States with $300 billion submarines in place. I believe they're still in place. It's just comical. Like we've really dropped as a country, haven't we? Like we've really just, ever since Middle Earth, there's nothing here socially, soft power wise that was supporting John Key. There's nothing. It is all scandal after scandal. This stuff is like second term stuff happening under Labour. And by extension, I wasn't paying attention on the national under John Key, but there probably were some scandals there. The TP Trans-Pacific Partnership. There was some fight back. I remember that, seeing on the news as a young person, as a baby. I am a young person now. I was a baby back then, but not like this. This is second term stuff. This is third term stuff. They could really, there is nothing positive, and whatever is positive is just a rehash, and everyone sees it as a rehash. No matter how much they try to squeeze any positivity, anything. They just can't do it because they're incompetent buffoons. The losers. The freaks. They don't understand working people. They don't understand this country. They don't even understand the psyche of this country. None of them do. Maybe some of them. But at the moment, I don't see it. John Key's more of a man of people than that bald-headed prick. No offense to bald heads. And on Sunday, there was only one article that came out that came out so far, and that was a premium paywall article from New Zealand Herald, which I'm not going to be paying for because I don't have a lot of money and I'm saving it all for study. And last but not least, a special mention to National MP Carl Bates. He's facing an official inquiry after failing to declare 25 properties linked to him and his family, many of them rentals. Raising questions about transparency, Bates insists he followed the rules as a trust beneficiary, but things got messy when a staffer tried to defend him online, accidentally posting from his own account. How now the Registrar of Pecuniary Interests has confirmed the matter is serious enough to investigate, leaving the MP and the government with uncomfortable questions about honesty in housing and accountability. And on top of that, I believe 6 MPs, it's another paywall article that I can't read, 6 MPs are now being investigated for undisclosed properties. Look, this is very funny to me. This is really comical to me. And because it reinforces my point that nothing good is happening to this government and by extension this country, but more specifically this government. And I still think they might win. I don't think they will. But I think they'll still win. But this raises a wider question on property ownership in the Parliament. I think it's getting to a point that we need a constitution. We need a constitution. We need a constitution written by people that actually, are competent. But we do need a written constitution, and we need to reevaluate, obviously, Te Tiriti, and along with that, because that is to the Crown, obviously. But we need a constitution, and by extension, that constitution should include MPs not allowed to own more than 2 houses, 2 properties, which could include, obviously, people have beach houses, batches, and all that, so there's 2 houses. We can't have people representing the people, most of which don't own 25 houses, looking through law and looking through policy that involves rental and housing in government. We can't have that. We just cannot have that. I mean, and it's also, I'm sure if you look through in the Labour Party, there's probably one of those 6 is probably a Labour MP. And I'm not saying that. I think I completely reject the idea that the hypocrisy of the left, that a lot of them, Marnaba Davidson, Close Robrick, I believe they own houses. It's ridiculous because they own so much money. Of course, they're going to buy a fucking house. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that there was a lot of comments around Facebook and stuff. I think it's really funny to me that they're Greta Thunberging it. But they really, I think, there needs to be a legal sell-off if you get elected into government of your assets down to 2. We'll go with 2. The one you live in, or the one that you did live in until you moved into an apartment, and an extended one that can be a holiday home, or just one you rent out. 2. We'll keep it. We'll keep it. We'll keep it to 2. I mean, honestly, I'd be I'd be open to just getting only 1, but we'll give them some leeway. We'll give them some leeway. Because that's the only way that I see this just not becoming, because disclosing it isn't going to fix anything. I mean, obviously, I'd like to disclose, or I would like to disclose all donations down to $1,000. Sorry, no, $500. $500. But that doesn't fix it. You need to cap donations at 20 grand. Increase the deposit or the pool of money that Parliament and increase the going on. I'm rambling again. And increase the pool of funding for political parties, but to supplement it. But that won't happen unless we have, and we need to ingrain. And if it does happen, it needs to be ingrained in constitutional law with the Supreme Court that actually can do something. That's not appointed politically. It's one mistake. No political appointments, and that's literally it. That's all I have on this. I just wanted to mention. That's all I have on this. I only wanted to mention this because I didn't really get to mention it earlier in the week and any of the other days because of other topics. I just wanted to mention it because it's so funny. It's like this guy. He replies to himself, or a public servant replies to him, going, "Good job, you're such a genius, love you," or giving a little circle jerk. Like it's just hilarious to me. It's so funny. I don't know. Nothing's going to happen to him. I don't know. Nothing's going to happen. I mean, I'll be shocked if it did.